The following is a Comfortably Zoned Radio Network production.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Tony D'Angelo's PM Coast to Coast. Now, here's your host, Tony D'Angelo.
And a very good afternoon to you along all the stations of the Comfortably Zoned Radio Network. I am your host, Tony D'Angelo, and this is the Speaking of Everything Afternoon Express edition of Tony D'Angelo's PM Coast to Coast. And on my last show, actually, which was the rain delay show, I could not find a guest, so I gave it my best shot to do a Mel Allen-style rain delay, and everybody had a lot of fun with that, me especially. But one of the things I had mentioned to you was that I'm going to have a guest here whom you don't know really. You haven't met him, but oh man, have you seen his works. His name is Jerry London. He is a producer-director who has been in the movie industry for close to 7 decades. This is absolutely unbelievable. Started as a very, very, very young man with I Love Lucy. He's recently authored a book called From I Love Lucy to Shogun and Beyond, Tales from the Other Side of the Camera, Jerry London. Jerry's list of credits is as long as Sonny Liston's police record, as long as your arm. He has done Hogan's Heroes, he's done Lucas Tanner, he's done Hawaii Five-0, he's done The Brady Bunch, he's done Shogun, he's done The Cosby Show. It goes on and on and on and on and on. And I think many times we watch a film and we watch the end product, but we don't get to see how the sausage is made. And tonight I really want to talk about with Jerry how the sausage is made. And from all I have had, I'm getting to know this man really, as you will be. Terrific guy, wants to talk about his career, wants to share with us, and I'm just honored to be sharing with him. And it's going to be quite a show. We're going to let Jerry go where he wants to go, and we're just going to be asking questions, and we'll all have a good time. So with that, it's raining again, if you can believe this, in northeastern Connecticut. It's like every day it rains, or as is often said, it rains here every day, whether you need to have it rain or not. Chicago, a number of years back, started to sing about another rainy day in New York City. This is like another rainy day in northeastern Connecticut. We're going to put a little sunshine in, get Jerry on the phone. We'll be coming back to you right after this. Well, ladies and gentlemen, as our founder Zig Tycho likes to say, I am back. I am pleased to be joined by producer-director Jerry London. Jerry has recently authored a book, as we mentioned on the lead-in, From I Love Lucy to Shogun and Beyond, Tales from the Other Side of the Camera. And I started to poke around with the book. It's just fascinating, the career this man has. He so graciously has offered to join us this afternoon. And Jerry, how are you?
Excellent. Everything's great.
Fantastic. Now, what I said to my audience was all of the people who are going to be listening up and down the Comfortably Zoned Radio Network, they don't know you, but they know you by your works. But yet, if I were to introduce you to my best friend, what would I say to he or she as to who Jerry London is?
Well, he was a young man who grew up in Los Angeles and always wanted to be in show business, and was lucky enough to have some uncles that worked in the studios, so that I was able to watch them make movies when I was a young boy. And I got the bug, and as soon as I finished school, I did whatever I could to get into the business, and of course my uncle helped me. That was how I got in, and I spent my whole life in TV, actually making TV movies and series, and it's been a great career. I've traveled everywhere and filmed about 350 episodes, 40 movies for television, and 12 miniseries.
It's an amazing resume. Now, you're a young boy, and I can relate to this somewhat, perhaps in a different genre. My dad and my uncles and a couple of my cousins were involved primarily in stage work in and around Broadway. When my dad was older, he ran movies in the town I grew up in Stamford, Connecticut. So I understand that fascination, but I'm curious to find from you, when you were watching all of this happen as a very young boy, was there a particular type of genre or film or project that seemed to get you really excited? Like, I really want to do a movie, and I want to do an adventure movie or a love movie or whatever the case may be.
Not really. I wanted to become an art director when I first got in the business and designed sets, because I had a lot of training school as far as commercial art and so forth. And so I didn't pick the genre. I just wanted to become an art director because I love to paint. And the problem with it is the unions were so tight, I couldn't get in. But I was able to get into the film editing. And I didn't know anything about it, but I learned the business, learned how to be an apprentice film editor. And in those days, we spliced film. You actually didn't...
Oh, I'm well familiar.
You had, two pieces of film, and you put it together with glue, and after a 1,000-foot reel, you had your reel of film. And I learned more about the business in the editing room than I could have learned anywhere else. And at this point, I wasn't thinking about becoming a producer or director. I just wanted to be in the business. At that time, I was only 18 years old and hadn't really made a choice, except that now that I was in, quote, the business, I was happy doing it. And I was actually, when I went to work at Desilu, which was the first studio I worked at, I met a lot of really nice people that took me under their wing, one of which was a producer. His name was Ed Feldman, and he kind of took me with him wherever he went. He did commercials. I would edit commercials. He did a couple of little TV shows. I edited them. And then he called me one day and he said, I've got a project. It's going to be a big success. I want you to work on it. And it was a pilot of Hogan's Heroes. And we're actually, from the start of it to the end, I was on it for 6 years. And he made me a director. First of all, I was his assistant. And then he made me an associate producer, and I learned more about constructing film because I had time to go on the set and talk to actors and so forth. And I got the bug about, maybe I can become a director because I see what these guys were doing, and I understood it. And I was good with the camera, and I knew editing, and the basic education I needed was dealing with actors. So I went to UCLA and took a drama course, and I went to Santa Monica City College, and I took psychology, which is very important when you're dealing with high-profile actors.
Sure.
And those two courses helped me get the confidence enough to know my ability, and when I started directing, I really liked it. And this producer just, he kept giving me more shows to do, et cetera, and then I met more people. And through the other contacts I made after Hogan's, I directed like Brady Bunch and Partridge Family and a lot of Love American Style, which was a show in the...
watched it, frequently.
Yeah. So I built up a lot of comedy credits. And then eventually I got the bug to do drama because directing comedy and directing drama are two different elements. You really get a chance to move the camera and deal with the actors more when you're doing drama. As far as comedy goes, the idea is you want to be sure that the jokes work and that you're getting all the reaction. So the real artistic ability of a director comes to the fore when he's doing dramatic shows. And through some twists and turns, which are in my book, I got into doing drama. And I worked at Universal for a couple of years, directing all their shows, Kojak, Rockford Files, $6 Million Man, Marcus Welby, etc. It was a great education because in those days you were shooting those shows in 6 days. You really had to know what you were doing. Nowadays, they want more production, but but they're taking 8 and 9 days to shoot an hour show. So it's easier one way, but it's tougher in another because of what the demands are, you know.
Understand.
Through working at Universal and doing all the shows, that's how I broke into Movies of the Week and miniseries, which were just beginning at that point. In fact, I did the third movie for television ever made, and I built up a lot of credit, and I got in demand, and luckily I did some good work, and I was very proud of a lot of shows like that.
As well you should be. Now, Hogan's Heroes, I wanted to talk to you about. I mean, it, as you say, it ran for 6 years, and it was an incredibly funny package. Those actors that you worked with, you know, John Banner, Warner Klemper, Bob Crane, Ivan Dixon, Larry Hovis, were they as funny in person as they were on the screen?
The funniest guy in the whole group was Richard Dawson.
Ah.
He played Newkirk. He was a riot. This guy, everybody would laugh at the readings. We had, before we had one day of rehearsal and reading. These table readings were hysterical. And of course, Warner Klemper and John Banner were at odds with each other because both of them wanted the funny material. They were badgering each other. That was even funnier in person, you know. But, the scripts were really well written. The writers knew the formula, and the humor came out of the great writing. But it was a real fun show to work on. It was kind of no stress. Everybody knew what they were doing. It was very efficient, and it was a great experience, I got to tell you.
Yeah, no, it's a lasting product, that's for sure. Jumping back a little bit to when you started to work in the very beginning, working for Lucy and Desi Arnaz, what type of a guy was Desi Arnaz? Was he like his character? Was he the, whatever you want to call him, the lovable Latin, or was he perhaps a little bit different, as sometimes people are?
Desi was a very smart businessman and a very personable person to be around. He was great with his crew and his people. He treated everybody really good, and he was super intelligent. And he was the guy that put together this 3-camera process.
Yeah, I was going to ask you about that.
Yeah, he and Carl Freund, who was the director of photography, invented that process. And then they decided, that they could do it in front of an audience to get a live laugh track. And it was through Desi's smarts that became. And then, of course, when he bought the studio, he was running the studio. Doing the show was like secondary because, they'd rehearse and go shoot it. But his big job, day after day, was running the studio and getting. At one point, when I got over to Desi, they had 10 different series on the air. And they were just the megalopolis of television. That was Desi.
And what kind of a person was Lucy to be around?
Lucy was into the work. She wanted. She could make anything work in a script, but she worked the writers over pretty good. If it didn't work, they'd rewrite. But she was basically very involved in the character of Lucy. And, she had her friends like the makeup lady and the hair lady, but she didn't really socialize with the crew. She was basically there for the work.
Yeah, it's interesting, and just the legacy that's all left. Now, where we watch things is, as you say, consumers or end users, and not really understanding all of the work that goes into it. Now, you've got a project, you've got actors, you've got a writer, you've got money. How do you deal with the time pressures from A to Z and the packaging and the management to make sure it all comes out right? I mean, to me, that's thinking about it kind of boggles my mind.
Well, the thing I tell everybody, kids that want to get in the business and everything, I said, don't attack it until you're ready. You have to be prepared. It's very important to know when you're on the set, the director is really responsible for everything. The producer puts it together and throws everything to the director, and the director actually makes the show. But you really have to know what everybody's job is, because you're making decisions all day long, whether, this is the right color adequacy, because time is money. You've got to use the time to make a good film. So the thing is to get a great education and learn all facets of the business before you jump in.
Yeah, and it's I appreciate your sharing that. I was watching something the other night. I think it was on Amazon Prime, and this is an interview that Merv Griffin was having with Carl Reiner years ago, and they brought up Samuel Goldwyn.
Right.
And Samuel Goldwyn was saying that good negotiations with actors result in great packages. Has that been your experience as far as dealing with actors? I mean, have you ever, I'm sure you have, but dealing with a hot-headed actor that wants to do something a certain way and convincing him that's not really right? I mean, how does all of that shake out?
Well, that's the value of taking psychology courses. Because the one thing that you do is when you meet new people, new actors and so forth, you've got to get them to have confidence in you immediately. Because once they have confidence in you, they'll listen to you.
Mm-hmm.
They'll come up with an idea and you don't agree with them. You can say, look, here's what we should do. You either say, look, let's try it both ways. Let's try it your way and my way. Or here's the reason I think this should be done this way. But it's basically how to get these people to have confidence in you. And it's a game of chess. It really is. Psychology is super important.
And it's just a marvel the way that one would approach that, and listening to you and reading what you do. Now, as far as genres of movies you've done, as you say, Love American Style, Hogan's Heroes, The Brady Bunch. There is a show which you've done. I want to make mention of this because it was one of my favorite shows. It wasn't around for a long period of time, but I thought it had a wonderful message. And I was always a big David Hartman fan, and Lucas Tanner in the 1970s.
Yeah.
And tell us about that.
He was a great guy. He really was. Super guy, and it was a very intelligent show. It didn't last very long. I guess the ratings were very good at the time. But he was a real gentleman. And I remember doing the show with one of the, at Universal, and he was a real gentleman, David. And it's a shame, but in TV, everything's based on ratings. So you can have a great show and it goes off the air because somehow the competition is too fierce or the publicity didn't work or whatever. And but the shows that stay on the air are because people watch them. The whole thing in television is all ratings.
Oh yeah, no question. The dollars drive a whole lot of. It seems like anything we do these days. But that is certainly the case. Now, as far as the genres that you've done, from the very lighthearted to the incredibly serious. Some of the pieces have involved sex and violence. How do you use sex and violence in a package to make a product? Is it we need to have sex and violence in certain things, or is it used to punctuate other things?
Well, now it's changed from when I was in the prime. My prime working was in the 80s, and in the 80s there was standards and practices that had pretty strict rules on nudity, profanity, and they told you they read the script and they marked things in the script that you can't do this or fix this and whatever. Things have changed now. They don't have program practices anymore. They have just producers that write the scripts and that network reads them, and most of the time the producer will shoot the way he feels it, and then if it gets to be a war later, they talk it out in the editing afterwards. But it's completely changed from the 80s to now. Nowadays, there's so many shows on cable, and of course cable is basically action, violence, sex, and a little bit of drama.
Mm-hmm.
That's what drives it for the ratings. That's why you have to get into a cable program, and they're not going to be simple like the network shows. Even though network shows now have come a long way in the last 15 years.
Yeah, It is something. I mean, as far as and you describe it perfectly. Now, out of all the genres that you've done, do you have do you get more excited with, like, say, a historical piece as opposed to a sitcom piece, or is everything kind of equal enjoyment to you?
Well, ever since I've been doing miniseries, which is the best thing you can do in television because they get bigger budgets, you have great locations, and lots of top-notch actors. In fact, I've worked with 25 Academy Award winners. And I got to tell you, the whole thing is based on the script. I don't care what type of genre it is, as long as the script is good.
Mm-hmm.
But I love doing big projects because a lot of the miniseries I did were 8, 10, and Shogun was 12 hours long. That's a major project, and it's pretty exciting when you're shooting in Morocco or in France or wherever, and you have foreign crew and you got all these strange things happening, and to solve it and then come up with a great product, that's very satisfying.
Now, as one as involved, we're going to talk about Jerry, the man, the person, for a moment. As one who is involved in his work and who loves it and who's thrown into it as much as you've been, did you have some challenges with maybe workaholism or keeping your personal life together, or there's Jerry, he's always working on projects, or people knew that was you and they accepted you as you?
Actually, my wife raised the kids, and I took her on a lot of the locations. And in fact, when my kids got a little older, they went with me on some of the locations, so they got a chance to see a lot of the world. It was very educational for them. But for sure, the work was the most important thing. But I was lucky to have a family that understood that.
Yeah, and you brought them along, and that's great. Now, I'm going to ask you this only because on the Comfortably Zone Radio Network, we have a lot of sports fans and baseball fans and differing types of sports. Do you have a favorite sports movie or baseball movie, or like as far as movies that you've watched through the years and you thought to yourself, gee, they really did that well?
Well, not only sports movies, but I'm a great. Even as a kid, I used to go to the movies all the time, and I was enthralled in seeing a film that made me stimulated. Like I loved From Here to Eternity, A Place in the Sun, Sunset Boulevard, all
right.
These were great films, and whether it was based on a mystery or a murder or sports along, it got me involved. That's what worked. So, but I even now I see a lot of movies during the week. Whether they're good or bad, I'm a great movie fan.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's it really is something. Now, out of all the movies that you've seen, movies that you have not done, do you have a favorite?
Well, I mentioned it.
Oh, that just like all of those kind of are on the same plane.
Boulevard is fantastic. Place in the Sun is. Montgomery Clift and Elizabeth Taylor, when they're dancing with that music, every time I see it, I break into tears. It's so great.
Yeah, it's.
That's the old type of movie making. They don't even make pictures like that anymore. Because right now all they're doing is they want the big action effects movies because they make tons of money, or dumb, stupid comedies that kids go see. It's not the same genre of films that it was 10 years ago even.
Yeah, it's. I mean, I'm grateful we have these old works, but you're absolutely right. We can't seem to duplicate anything like that anymore. So as far as in your career, you spent a lot of time working with Bill Cosby. We know, sadly, what's happened with Bill Cosby in recent days. I don't want to talk about that. I want to talk about your relationship with Bill Cosby and what he was like to work with, and kind of the whole Me Too movement, and how he treated you.
He was a real gentleman to everybody. It was such a shock when I heard this terrible news, but he was great to his crew. He was great to me, and he was great to everybody. Like when I was filming in New York with him, we'd do a scene where he was crossing the street, and some lady who was just a regular pedestrian said, "Oh, Mr. Cosby, how are you? So nice." And we're right in the middle of the scene. Instead of blowing her off, he said, "Oh, well, how are you, ma'am? It's very nice to talk to you." You know, and he was very good with people, really good, a real gentleman. I mean, the whole thing was just, I couldn't believe it. Amazing.
So as far as, shall we say, conduct on the set, back when you were working the miniseries and when you were working the sitcoms and things like that, and I ask purely from ignorance because I want to know, was it the sort of thing that people were just a lot less touchy, or was the attitude just a lot more businesslike?
I think the attitude was more businesslike. Everybody was there to make the film and make a good product. I didn't see a lot of this stuff then. I think most of it was behind the scenes.
Mm-hmm. It was, we're professionals and we're here to do a job, and that's what we're going to do. So as far as in our starting to get into our closing moments, do you counsel young? I mean, you did mention you speak to young people and you encourage them. Do you counsel them as to what they need to do as far as training and experience, or do you have opportunities to do that? Do you give any classes or any seminars?
I go out on speaking tours quite a bit, and you always get the same questions: how do you get into business? How to become a director? So forth. And it's pretty simple, and some of it I mentioned to you. The easiest way if a guy wants to become, or a lady wants to become a director, is write a great script. And, the material speaks for itself. If somebody likes your script and wants to make it, I think if you have enough sense and confidence, you can talk them into letting you direct it because they want the material. And the second thing, as I said, you have to have psychology. You have to know how to talk to people. Those are the two things that are the fastest way to get in the business. Know psychology or write a great script. And as far as the schooling goes, it's a basic education. I think you can learn everything there is about making a movie by being on the set. If you can get a job as a technician on the set, doing something like props or a wardrobe or whatever, and being on the set, you'll learn more than you would in school.
Yeah, there ain't no college like the College of Hard Knocks, that's for sure. I fully agree with you. For my last question, I'd like to ask you this. You're where you are now at this moment. I'm blessed to have you on the show talking to me. What is the advice that Jerry now would have given to Jerry way back when to make Jerry's experience a better one, even though it's hard to imagine that you could have a better one?
Well, I was fortunate. I worked with so many great people, and I got so many great scripts that I didn't have to strive that much to find things. They came to me. Or once I did. Hang on a second. Once I did these big shows. Every time I finish one, I have another script laying on my desk. So it went on for years where I didn't really have to look for work. The work came to me. So I've been very fortunate, and I had a great career, and frankly, I wouldn't change much.
No, I mean, I just think of the people you've been with and the things you've done. Are you still active in producing and directing? Are you waiting for the right opportunity, or?
I'm working on some feature scripts. I don't do the everyday series directing anymore because physically it's so demanding, and I'm getting up there. So I let the young kids do the series, but I have a couple of very good feature scripts that I'm trying to get financing for. And it's a tough job getting money to do movies. But
it seems like it's a tough job these days to get money to do anything.
Yeah. But I know I have these great scripts, so if I ever get chance to make something, I'll have a great movie.
Well, I sure hope so, because I really don't think we've heard the last of you yet, my friend.
Well, thank you.
So the book, From I Love Lucy to Shogun and Beyond, Tales from the Other Side of the Camera,
Right.
Jerry London, we've been privileged to share this half hour with Jerry London. And Jerry, I thank you so much. You're gracious, you're a gentleman, you're a professional, and everyone will really love to hear this interview. And, we'll keep talking, and, let me know what you do. And the door's always open here if ever you care to come back.
Yeah, where are you located?
I'm actually, I do this broadcast from northeastern Connecticut.
Oh, okay.
And where I said at the beginning of the broadcast, it seems to rain here every day, whether we need it or not. But, it's...
Talk to you and mention to your readers, they can buy the book on Amazon. I think they'll really enjoy it.
I'm sure they will, I know, and I've been poking around with it, and it's fantastic. Listen, my best, stay in good health. Thank you so much for honoring us tonight, my friend.
Okay, thanks a lot. Bye-bye.
Okay, bye now. And that was Jerry London. We're going to be coming right back. What an honor this has been, especially to Tony D'Angelo on the Comfortably Zoned Radio Network. I'm sure you like Jerry, too. Well, special thanks to Jerry London for sharing tonight on the Comfortably Zoned Radio Network. Tony D'Angelo's PM Coast to Coast, the Afternoon Express edition. And we'll be coming back to you on Saturday with a guest you're going to love, a sports nut, a true dyed-in-the-wool sports nut, someone whom I've known for a little bit. His name, Butchie Haber. So all of the stations along the Comfortably Zoned Radio Network, and as Walter Winchell would say to all the ships at sea, this is Tony D'Angelo signing off. We'll see you real soon. Good night, everybody, and God bless.